We are on the third of 4 examples of mother to son emotional incest examples from Silently Seduced. This one is called The Prince. It's basically like a womanizing type example. Handsome, charming, and seemingly able to talk a good game, Jeffrey began discussing why he wanted to be in therapy. I was shocked when I discovered through the grapevine at work that because I wasn't married, I didn't get the promotion I was after. I didn't fit the company image. I worked towards the position for a long time and I had really counted on it. My qualifications were outstanding. What did my personal life have to do with the job? Initially, I was angry and I thought about contacting my attorney. However, after finding myself sobbing at home that evening, I thought better of it. I couldn't remember myself ever crying before, not even as a kid, except when I wanted my way. I knew something was really wrong. I never questioned my insatiable appetite for the company of women. I never seemed satisfied with dating just one woman. I always had to be involved simultaneously with many. For the most part, I was usually honest about dating around, so I never gave it a second thought. Besides, women seemed more than willing to compete. I loved the attention. It made me feel like a king. Dating became more like a sport than an attempt at developing a relationship. During the times I was dating just one woman, it was never enough. I had to have more. I generally didn't spend more than 1 or 2 days in a row with any one woman, thinking I wanted to be careful not to get too tied down. Yet, if I wasn't seeing someone on a given day, I was planning my next encounter. My life became consumed with the pursuit of women. I suspect the reason I didn't get the promotion was more involved than just not being married. I wondered if it was the reputation that I had as a ladies' man that was what really interfered. When any woman I was dating began to make demands of my time or wanted a commitment, I would stop seeing her. Shortly after, I would begin looking for a replacement. I usually felt panicky and desperate until I filled the space left by her departure. During those rare times when I had a long-term girlfriend, I felt suffocated and never remained faithful. In my 20s, my excuse was that I was too young for a commitment. In my 30s, it was, I still have some time left. Now that I'm 47, I find myself saying, I'm just not the marrying type. Privately, I've been waiting for the perfect woman. I realized for the first time just how lonely and fearful I actually am. It seems I've spent the better part of my life running from something, though I can't see what it is. Jeffrey had a difficult time relating to a male therapist. Men like Jeffrey usually relate to other men by bragging about their escapades and discussing women as they would discuss the attainment of a sports trophy. Sharing intimately is frightening and avoided at all costs. With women, Jeffrey was likely to brag about himself, embellish stories, and talk intimately only as a means to seduce. Relationships with both men and women leave men like Jeffrey feeling alone and empty. Over time, Jeffrey developed enough trust to begin identifying what he was running from. I never imagined my childhood had much to do with the struggles that I was experiencing with women in intimacy. My family was always a place where I was treated like a prince, especially by my mom. I had an older sister who was my dad's and I was my mother's, creating what seemed like a division of loyalty. My mom was always on my side anytime that there was conflict. She always indulged me. Anything I wanted, I got. She was at my beck and call. She showered me with gifts, fussed over me, and told me how handsome I was. She would tell me, someday you're going to be a ladies' man. She was always preoccupied with my appearance and not uncommonly talked about my body. I remember once as a teenager, she made a comment about how good I looked in tight jeans. I felt embarrassed and a little funny, but didn't think too much of it. Already as a teenager, I seemed to be attractive to girls. It felt great. At school, I got lots of attention from my girlfriends, and at home, I got even more attention from my mom. I see now that as early as then, I couldn't get enough attention from girls. My mother actually encouraged me to go out with girls, and she never put any restrictions on the time that I had to be home. Once I stayed out all night. When I got home in the morning, my mom just gave me a big smile and a kiss and said, I know what you were doing. I just smiled back until my father came in the room. He gave me a vicious look and wanted to know where the hell I had been all night. My mother immediately came to my defense and told him I was just out being a boy. As she left for work, she reminded me, as she frequently did, that I shouldn't get too attached to any one girl so that I could shop around for the perfect one. There was mostly distance between my father and me. He never seemed to have much time for me and spent a great deal of time away from the house. He worked a lot, and sometimes I wondered if he had another woman on the side. My dad never got drunk or physically abused me. He just wasn't there. I never could figure out why my parents stayed together. They were both working professionals and on the surface seemed not to have enough time for each other, but it went deeper than that. Even when they were together, they didn't talk to each other much. They really were unhappy together. I see now why my mother invested so much energy into me. The relationship Jeffrey's mother had with him was sexually energized. Jeffrey probably felt stimulated early in childhood by his mother's intense passion towards him. Certainly, his tale of his mother's apparent pleasure in knowing he had spent the night with a girl strongly suggests she was vicariously enjoying a fantasy of her own. Confused and with no one to talk to, Jeffrey suppressed feelings of shame and anger at being violated. Further, he would have had to deny that his mother's treatment of him felt invasive and to continue believing that he was her prince. Over time, his feelings of shame and anger, buried deep within, evolved to contempt and rage towards all women. Playing the ladies' man was a mask for this contempt and rage and a way to act the feelings out. Psychologically, it is generally believed that a ladies' man or a womanizer is really trying to gain control or power over women. Certainly, this is true. In extreme cases, hatred and abuse of women even develop. However, at a deeper level, the ladies' man avoids the pain of being violated by his mother and acts out his rage specifically about her as opposed to women in general. As time goes on, such a man has to date more, hate more, or abuse more to sustain the denial of feelings about the incest with his mother. In Jeffrey's case, the desperation and panic he felt when he wasn't seeing someone suggested his suppressed feelings were trying to find their way to the surface. Being denied the promotion at work was the catalyst which broke down Jeffrey's defenses and left him with the pain of the trauma of being seduced by his mother and abandoned by his father. Also at issue here, at least on the surface, is Jeffrey's fear of intimacy. This expression gets tossed around a lot these days, particularly when discussing men. Certainly, Jeffrey's inability to make a commitment qualifies him as someone who fears intimacy. Yet, just to work at finding ways to help him become more intimate is not the remedy. It is not so much the fear of intimacy that is operating here, but the fear of feelings a commitment would bring to the surface. A committed relationship would re-engage the original emotionally intimate system, Jeffrey's family, he carried with him into adulthood. In that committed relationship, all those feelings and issues that are still unresolved would surface so he could finally work them through and feel at peace within himself. It's the psyche's way of healing old emotional wounds. Without the proper context of understanding and the means to alter one's behavior, the pain of the original trauma continues and the old patterns keep repeating themselves. In Jeffrey's case, he seduced and objectified women as his mother did to him in their covertly incestuous relationship. Given the intense passion and sexual preoccupation Jeffrey's mother had towards him, it is likely that she herself was an incest victim, acting out with Jeffrey what had been done to her. Incest victims may choose partners who have difficulty with sexual boundaries in an effort to work on shame and anger. This suggests Jeffrey's suspicion of his father having extramarital affairs was probably accurate. In turn, Jeffrey's parents were reenacting scenes from their own childhoods. Jeffrey was the next victim in line for the spillover of inappropriate sexualized energy transmitted over generations of victims. One final note on Jeffrey's case. He, like many men who have reputations as womanizers, are primarily interested in the sexual conquest of women. This type of pattern reflects sexual addiction.